She also co-founded, the nonprofit Girls Programming Network, or GPN, and she remains the CEO of this to this day. And so GPN in general it's a volunteer-led program that sort of looks to bolster and solidify gender diversity in the tech industry, and with an objective of sort of reaching out to girls, 1,500 girls as of now, to teach them coding skills. Renee, very impressive here, doing lots of other stuff as well. She's also the founder of Connect Ed Code, which is an initiative that brings project-driven tech education to students and teachers. So the overarching theme here of trying to make technology accessible for a wide range of people so that we can all know enough about it. And so, yeah, she's been rightfully recognized with a variety of awards. For instance, she was recently named the Champion of Change at the Women Leading Tech Awards 2025. And so her career is extensive in this, with a key focus on empowerment. And beyond that, she really enjoys swing dancing, caring for plants, and engaging in community outreach to inspire our next generation of technology enthusiasts. So I'll hand it over to Renee now to pick up her.
Amazing, thank you. I will share my screen once it is empty. And here we go. Okie dokie. Let me just make you all bigger so I can see you as well. Fantastic. Okay, thank you all for having me here today. I'm really excited to tell you a bit about what my of being a leader is. So I start with the question, what even is leading? I'm going to tell you a bit about my journey and like how I've come to understand what leading is along the way. So yeah, I've got a QR code. It'll be at the end of the thing. It has some like free resources that you can also get from Microsoft and other things that I stuck all in this place so you can have them. But that'll be back at the end. But yeah, today I'm going to go through my story. It's a bit of story time with Renee, and then my thoughts about that experience and the lessons I've learned along the way. I also have a new like modern leadership idea kind of thing that I've added today, and brand new slide, especially for you. I'm going to talk a bit about AI because I think that's like a thing that a lot of people are thinking about at the moment. And I think as leaders, we have a lot to think about when we consider that technology. So my story, we're going to see how I got started, where it's going, how it's going, and how I even got here. So yeah, this is me, little Renee, always been a STEM nerd from the very start, loved building things, but I didn't necessarily like know how to get into, I didn't know where I wanted to go with that, really. I certainly didn't know anything about computers. As a girl growing up in the 90s, that wasn't super a thing. And when I moved to Coffs Harbour when I was a teenager, girls doing technology in regional Australia, super not a thing. So it's really a surprise that I've ended up here in my crazy technology life, where by day I work for Microsoft as a senior cloud advocate. And so I'm teaching people how to use technology. So I'm going to be like up on the latest technology. I also run the Girls Programming Network, which I've been doing for 10 years and got involved in about 13 years ago with. And I started a business also teaching technology, connected code, helping to try and bring that into schools. So yeah, I've done a lot of different things and try and bring technology to people in a lot of different ways. But I didn't imagine myself landing here at all in this giant salad of a crazy technology-filled life. So how did I get here? I certainly didn't go, well, I'm going to make a plan and become a leader. I'm going to start with uni job and then be a leader. I've unsubscribed from that. I feel like you can become a leader. You're probably already a leader in some aspect of your life today. So you don't have to be leading a company or something like that to be a leader. You can be a leader amongst your peers and in how you interact with the world and like with your ideas. So I started off in school, like many of us do, and just taking opportunities to help people, stepping into positions, whether I was coaching gymnastics or kind of just helping people be involved in the gymnastics community, or I just really liked helping people with their homework at school because they were having a hard time. So teaching has always been kind of an aspect of my journey that I've taken along the way because, as I'll go through this, like teaching and lifting up other people is kind of at the core of my style of leadership, which I would call servile leadership or servant leadership, where you're working to bring other people up to your level. Then in university, I came to uni to study chemical engineering and chemistry. None of that mentions computer science somehow. But I did get involved in a bunch of other things while I was at uni that really helped me along on this journey. So I'll go into a couple of those, but you can see Girls Programming Network tutoring is involved here, and also doing a bunch of different programs along the way. So I didn't just go, I'm going to go and do one internship and then just go back to that place every year and do that internship again. I tried out a bunch of different things, and it was a great opportunity to kind of flex some different skills and work out what I wanted to do. And also kind of bring in, especially when I was working in a paper recycling factory that makes brown paper. That's all they do. But like bringing in coding that I've been picking up while I was at uni and being like, what if we did this? And seeing their response to what I was able to build just on my bus rides to work. So I did a bunch of different things along the way that have helped me build a lot of skills. And I've also gone into my early career and been able to leverage those skills and continue to pick up a bunch of other random things along the way. So yeah, we've got, oh yes, sorry, I should have gone to the pretty slides with the pictures. Going into uni, as I said, I was at a paper manufacturing place, and then brought in this idea like, what if we use coding to help make things happen better, help manage data rather than making the same Excel graphs every single day. And they were like, well, no, we couldn't possibly do that because everyone has forgotten code left university. And like, that's sad, weird. Because I've come along to, as I said, study chemical engineering and chemistry, and then I've shoved a computer science major into my degree along the way. So in doing that, I'm like, I'm picking up some skills. What if I can bring them into this manufacturing company and stop them from copying and pasting data all over the place where I'm just like, oh my God, you're going to lose a row of data because you have like millions of lines of data and you are moving them around all the time. Very distressing. So I was like, what if we use coding? They're like, nah, we can't do that. So then I used coding. But I did it secretly because I learnt VBA, which is the coding language behind Excel, because they love Excel. And then I made a thing that they don't have coding, but I could use coding, and then everyone was happy. So I was like 21 years old, being like, what if we did it this way? And challenging the idea of how we do is like a way you can be like, I tried a thing, here it is. And then by the end of it, like, show us this and hand it over to your manager so they can continue your project rather than like doing a little toy project while I'm there that kind of dies when I leave. So doing things like that, I'm like, oh, I can choose where I go rather than just doing what I'm told. So same thing in my honors project. They gave me a list of things in chemical engineering of like, here are the things that you can do for your honors thesis. I'm like, I would like to do none of these. One of them was literally watching concrete dry. And I didn't want to do that. So I went to one of the lecturers who I knew was also into coding and environment stuff. And I had really wanted to do renewable energy when I came to uni to do chemical engineering. That's why I chose that degree, kind of. Mostly because I'm like, I don't know what I want to do. So I'm going to use this really long degree name and hopefully figure it out along the way. And I decided to make it even longer along the way. And that's worked out pretty well. But yes, finding a lecturer and they're like, yeah, cool, put my name. If you're going to sign me, then we'll work out a cool project to do together. And that's what we did. And we worked out how to use machine learning to do prediction for solar panel, like battery hybrid usage, which is pretty cool based on the weather and stuff like that. So once again, being like, what if I challenged what I was presented and choose just a little bit of a different path and just like worked it out? So sometimes you just have to do a little bit of legwork and people are happy to see what you do or help you out with doing that. So yeah, that was kind of my new uni, new you experience, because before this I'd been actually quite shy, and you probably wouldn't realize that now because I talk so much and so fast. But yeah, there was a lot of things that I'd wanted to be involved with. And I could start at uni being like, hey, I'm in a new space and I can like start making some of those decisions and trying to do some cool stuff. I also did this while I was living at International House, which is not currently running at USyd, which is sad because it needs to be rebuilt. But it's one of the colleges that I got to go to, which was really cool because I got to go and be involved in a bunch of different opportunities, like putting up my hand to join the committee that runs different things like food fair and international night and lots of different things, which are like, okay, all these like O Week needs to be run. People need to put their hands up and do this. which was a really great opportunity for me to like build a bunch of skills and also build my confidence in being like, hey, I can actually do this stuff and I have the ability to figure out how to do whatever I want to do. Which, yeah, has been something so valuable as I've gone forth in my career, being like, don't know how to do this. I guess I'll figure it out. And that's the answer. And also, when you're volunteering for things and you realize how other people don't want to do things, and you're like, oh, I don't have the skills to do this. I'm probably not the best person to do it. And you look around, you're like, oh, I'm the only one here. I guess I'm going to figure out how to do it because literally nobody else wants to do it. They just like want to go to the party. They don't want to plan the party and buy the things, put up the decorations, order this, that, and the other. So you get all of those opportunities when you're like, what if I volunteer and I get all the opportunities to practice those skills? Because I think that being a leader, building those muscles is something really important to do along the way, rather than being like, when I get to the end of your school, university, career, leadership, like you can't just build leadership skills when you get to the leadership aspect. You need to start building them today or yesterday. Maybe you've already started. Okay, so I moved into my career because those are all other things, so all part of internships and stuff. And yeah, you know, I went to work for Data61 at CSIRO, got to do a few things there, just kind of building my early stage technical skills, whether I was working on open source data projects, whether I was doing some, you know, pre-generative AI, natural language processing. Do you want to know more about generative AI and how it relates to natural natural language processing? Let me know another time and I will tell you. Because yeah, AI has been around for heaps, a really long time. It's just gotten really big now in terms of we have really big computers now. But yeah, I did some of that stuff and I worked at an ed tech company as well for a bit. Yeah, just doing, you know, some early career stuff. But that was kind of not the major part of my story at the time. You know, it paid the bills and that is good to do. But kind of at the same time, I was involved in the Girls Programming Network, and this volunteer thing that I've, you know, spent countless hours on has been a huge aspect of my life for 13 years. So my career time also includes this thing that I didn't get paid to do that I spend a lot of time in. And this is what it looked like when I joined back in 2014, approximately when I joined. So yeah, this is one classroom of people. I'm here in the back. And yeah, a bunch of kids. This is the whole event. This is what GPN looks like a couple of years later. And I'll get to it getting even bigger in a second. But for those of you who may not have heard of GPN, we offer free coding workshops for high school girls of all levels, and we do it all around Australia now to get people to have an authentic programming experience, run by women and gender diverse people for girls and gender diverse kids, offering a really low barrier to entry for all students. So it's free, we give them food, we provide the computers because we don't want anything to stop people like having a go at trying technology. So, and then we have all these fun things that we do at the day, including coding, including like mini lectures and tutors and mentoring, and obviously the food and making friends and doing some unplugged games to like get away from the screens, but also still keep learning cool stuff and how it applies to the real world. So I showed you one picture a second ago. Then it looked like this, but there's more pictures of more places around Australia. I can't fit them all on the screen at the same time. That's my current problem. And we have even bigger pictures. Like, so these are from several years ago. And now, yeah, Perth, way bigger than that. And we've had, you know, Melbourne come on board, and we've got Adelaide that's come on board. We've got our first event in Brisbane this weekend. So lots of cool things happening all around the country from this tiny little photo that we saw a couple slides back. So this has been my leadership journey, being like, what can we do to reach more people? Because we had these kids coming along to GPN Sydney. And then the problem with what we had was too many girls wanted to learn to code. Everyone knows that's the real problem in STEM, is that too many girls want to do it. No, we ran out of computers. We only had 180 computers when we were running in the School of IT at USyd. And then we just had too many kids who wanted to learn to code. And that was the problem. So we went, oh, this is probably a problem all around Australia. What if we like like girls learn to code everywhere. So then we've gone everywhere, which is really exciting. And these graphs are obviously old. Then COVID happened and that was like a whole different thing. But since then we have recovered because COVID is a bad time to put 180 girls in the same room together, turns out. But you too can make a way back from a natural disaster if you need to, because you'll figure out how to do it. But yeah, that's been like my career journey, like the biggest opportunity to learn things and have awesome opportunities to speak at conferences, develop an ideology and build up like this project that like in Sydney, it was really easy to do because like we had a bunch of people who like worked at big tech companies or like were doing PhDs at UCID and stuff like that. And like, yeah, cool, I can teach a couple of kids how to code, that's fine. But it's like, okay, now we need to do it not for 30 girls, but we need to do it for 180 girls at UCID. It's like, okay, how am I going to get more volunteers? How am I going to like reach out to more, kids? How are we going to get more funding? Things like that. And then bringing on like, how are we going to spread this idea to another city? How are we going to do it for regional Australia where they don't have the same like technically skilled people? They have really keen school teachers who want to do it. How do we make it happen for them? So it's been a really exciting journey to figure out what problem are we going to solve next? What resources do we have to do it? So yeah, I got to be in a bunch of magazines, win some awards, which is great and all. I will say it feels really good at the time. Don't mark your success by who else acknowledges what you do, because sometimes, the work you do is a bit invisible, but it's still really worthwhile. But something great about being at these events and stuff is meeting the other people who are also making changes and what you can learn from them. Along in my career time, why have 2 jobs when you could have 3? I've done other things. I've volunteered at computer camps. I taught swing dancing for a number of years, which is a really great opportunity to like work out on how to cultivate a community, how you can like do social media marketing, and just like learning a bunch of different things that all come back in when you are like going to run a business of sorts. Not that I think of GPN like a business, but at the end of the day, we want to grow and we want to make more impact. And like whether you're aiming to make money at the end of the day or aiming to change the lives of lots of people, that comes back to the idea of a strategy. Yeah, so learning a bunch of different things. I was the treasurer of an alumni association for a while, so I got to learn things like MYOB and how to like do all the budgeting and things. So you can pick up skills that you don't realize where you're going to use them anywhere along the way. Yeah, so this is kind of a journey that I didn't realize was going to go on, because the way I got involved with GPN is I signed up as a volunteer when it was this big, and then the person who was leading it at the time was like, I need to step aside for a little while because I have a personal emergency. I don't want to cancel the workshop. Can someone take it over so we don't cancel it? I'm like, what's involved? And then she's like, well, you just need to turn up early with the fruit and send some emails to tell people to turn up. I'm like, that's really easy. I've done a bunch of stuff when I was volunteering at International House. That's fine. It was a horrible lie. Well, not a horrible lie. It was a big lie. These things were not true in terms of like, where does the stuff that the kids learn come from? I'm like, is someone working on that? What's going on? But like overcoming those problems was really enjoyable for me, and going, hey, we've been saying we're going to do this for like a year now. We haven't done it. What if next term we did that? And just making it happen and being like, we can just decide to do things. We have the autonomy to do that. So yeah, I thought she was going to come back after a term. Anyway, 10 years later, I'm still here in this job, and a job I've made it even bigger than the thing that she neglected to tell me about when she told me it was about emails and fruit. But that is because it's a really exciting thing that I've got to do, and I've had the privilege to do that. So yeah, that has been my journey up until 2020, when I was like, you know what? I'm working at this startup and it's not the best. I'm not loving it. And it's a moment for reflection for a lot of people, being like, this is not exactly what I want to be doing. And I have just listed a bunch of skills that I've developed over the years through GPN and through various other things. And I'm like, they're not even letting me use the skills that I have, even though they could. Maybe I don't want to be here. So I'm going to list all my skills out, figure out what I can do, and go, okay, I'm going to start a business in the middle of a pandemic. And maybe it's not the best idea to start a business in the middle of a pandemic, but like at the same time, I needed that push to do something because I'm like, I want to use the skills that I have and change tact and where I'm going in life. So I did that and I started Connected Code, focusing on how I could bring the skills that I had to schools and communities outside of the scope of GPN, with that idea that like context makes things more exciting for kids to learn, and bringing that together with my understanding of curriculum from my work at the EdTech and my connection that I had already to communities. So, and I was like, here's all the ideas I have. I could do all of these things. I could build this content. We could have kits. We could sell to people. We could have tutoring. We could have free community events. We could do Teacher PD. And obviously, that's like a lot of things and like a lot of ambition, but it's also a really exciting way to be like, what's the core of what I want to do? And I did do a bunch of cool stuff along the way. So this is how to make musical instruments with Kookaberries, which are like little tiny computers and things that you can program. And this is actually teaching music teachers how to make musical instruments with kids, which is really exciting. I did it also with little kids, and they thought it was awesome, making this giant piano where everyone makes their own key. We solved a murder mystery where the kids got to use the Kookaberries once again to design their own, build their own detective tools to like make radios and to make like water, sensors and things to find the clues they needed to solve the mystery. Obviously, the vice principal did it. We built escape rooms where they got to build their own puzzles, where if you did, you put the totems in the right place, it might unlock a box by having that idea of like, you can control this tiny computer and inputs and outputs, and they can all connect together in a big team, which is pretty fun. And also making these little weather station things that go up in a drone and they can measure the atmosphere, and kids get to learn about all different aspects of the environment, which is really exciting. So, yeah, I did that. And then along that journey, I'm like, well, I'm doing GPN, I'm doing Connected Code. A friend who was also a GPN tutor reached out to me and was like, Renee, there is this job. You have to apply for it. I'm like, I just kind of started a business. I'm kind of busy with doing a business. And she's like, this is a perfect job for you. It's just like GPN. I'm like, okay, interesting. I will talk to the people because it would be a good business connection. That would be a good thing to do. It's, involves the reactor, Microsoft Reactor in Sydney, which is this big community space. Maybe I can use that for my business. So I'll just go in for my personal business purposes, but under the guise of doing job interviews. So through doing that, I learned it was about tech and teaching and community, which are those three things that I said that I really like to do. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting. That's me. Also, I got to meet different people from the team, and they were all super nice. And they told me that I don't have to sell anything because I'm really bad at selling stuff. I'm really good at giving things away for free. So if it relied on me selling things, it would be a bad job for me. But they said there's lots of things that I can give away for free. I'm like, perfect. That's really interesting and cool. Also, I get to help early career professionals and uni students. So you can all become a Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador. Feel free to reach out or look on the link that I'll give you at the end of the thing. You can improve. I could be a representative and help improve diversity in the space at a global scale with the backing of Microsoft. And also, I would get paid money to do things that I already want to do, which was really an interesting prospect of someone who has spent thousands of hours doing GPN for free. And it was flexible. They said I could even, along the way, I've obviously been a school teacher. So it's actually, while I was doing the Connected Code stuff, I was teaching at a school and I was teaching some really cool girls. And I was like, well, I could keep doing the teaching at the same time, which would be fun. So I should have said I had 4 jobs at some points. This is fine. Maybe I don't recommend that. But yeah, so I saw all that stuff and then I was like, what if I earned money? That would be good. And to do the things that I want, and I'll just go and maybe I'll just take this job. So that's how I accidentally got a job at Microsoft. I'm going along to these interviews. I'm like, okay, I'll just go to one more. And then, then I'll say, no, I think I've reconsidered. I don't think it's the right time for me. But I went to the 4th interview. And then after that, pretty quickly, I got a phone call I thought there'd be like another round of interviews because that was just like one block of 4 interviews I did in like 2 days. And then I'm like, surely there'll be another round. But no, there was a phone call and then they offered me a pile of money. And that was quite distracting from the original idea that I would just go for the business connections. But everything did really sound good. And that is, yeah, how I ended up here. And I've been able to do a lot of cool stuff, including creating courses for people to be able to learn Python. I've got, opportunities to do a bunch of diversity stuff and yeah, learn a lot of different technologies myself. Within this journey is another journey, because if you ever go to a big organization, you'll learn about restructures or reorgs, and you get to be moved around a lot by surprise. So I've got to learn a bunch of stuff, from moving from being a regional cloud advocate to like working on the Australia, New Zealand area, to growing into the Power Platform team, learning a bunch of different low code, no code, pro code joining technologies. Worked in the Microsoft Fabric team on data stuff, and I've finally landed here in the Python Cloud Advocacy team, which is the best team for me because I love Python, which is a great programming language and I highly recommend. So yeah, you might not know what journey you're going to go on. It might be a surprise once you accidentally get a job somewhere and then you're like, what if I did do this? And just kind of being open to the winds of change and seeing what might be a nice opportunity for you to give a go at next is always a good opportunity to just like put your hand up for something, as I did when it was International House with College Programming Network, or when I got this job, I'm like, what if I did? So yeah, now I get the chance to talk to cool people like you all and different people on how to be a leader, be a founder, use AI, be a developer, and build those skills, which is really cool. So yeah, that's my crazy life and how I've got here. So a few thoughts on the things that I have done along, like from this journey, basically. So my first thought is about teaching, empowering, and enabling people. So as I mentioned a bit earlier about servile leadership, this isn't about, being a leader isn't about me. It's about everybody else that works with me, and being able to lift them up to do more than they would be able to do by themselves, more than I'd be able to do by myself, and bringing everyone along on that journey to build a better team together. And so, yeah, my thought is always about like, how can I help other people with what they are trying to do, really? This also reflects back into service and responsibility and making it happen. So yeah, I like to make change happen. That's why I'm like, what if we use coding to this? Company that didn't believe in coding, seemingly. And just being like, what if we did something differently? And taking on that responsibility to make a difference, because I do believe that leadership is about a service. Once again, it's not about you being the boss and being the cool person in the room who everyone looks up to. It's like, no, I want to take responsibility for making a difference, and I'm going to help people do that along the way. And yeah, because I want to be a better person and I want to make the world a better place. And to do that, finally, opportunity, uncertainty, and adventure. If we want to make the world a better place, we're going to have to make a difference. We're going to have to make a change. So sometimes you got to seize that opportunity, and you might not know where that's going to go, and you're going to figure it out along the way. So that is part of the adventure. Yeah. So that's kind of my thoughts on like how on earth I ended up here, by just being like, what if I gave it a go? What if I figured it out? And where could we end up if we did that? So yeah, that's kind of that experience. Yeah. And my lessons learnt along this journey have been many. Here's how I can sum them up in 3 specific ones that I think are the most important. Delegation and team mentorship. I spent a lot of this time doing a lot of things by myself because I didn't want to, burden someone else with having to like do the work. And I thought I should have to do it all. So I tried to be my own team, basically, which is really tiring. Also, it strips everyone else of the opportunities that I had, that I've just said, I did all these things and look at all the skills I got to learn and do and stuff. And at some point, I'm like, I have learned how to do these things. They don't serve me to do them again. I've sent these emails or whatever I'm doing 100 times. I've set up this thing 100 times. Why should I do it again? I'll do it if it needs to get done. I'm the only person who needs to do it, but it does stop me from progressing and being able to do other things that other people maybe don't have the skills to do. So if I can mentor other people and delegate to them and check in on them and make sure they're going okay with things like that, I lift them up to the place that I maybe started at, and then they can keep building on there, and then we can all move up together and build a taller and taller pyramid, really. So that is my top tip, number one. To do this, you got to communicate really well, and also you got to really appreciate and celebrate the things that people do for you. So communication is key, and communicate early, communicate often is basically my best tip as well. Because if you're working something like I have done with GPN and it's full of volunteers, people aren't doing it in their 9 to 5. So if you're asking people to do something, it's best to just ask them early, or if you need to tell people like, hey, here's some resources, could you have a look at them before you workshop? Sending that earlier is better than like working out like, okay, I'm going to get every piece of information together, I'm going to send one big perfect email. Well, then you don't know when people are going to have time to respond to an email that you send or have a chance to look through what you've provided them. So if you're concerned, it might not be the perfect ideal thing that you wanted to do, but if you can always do the things that are communicating to other people first, and then do the stuff that you can do personally later, that's what I find is the most impactful way to engage other people, rather than just like holding back and then like, I'll be perfect first and then I'll let the world see. So that's a great way to bring people in. And then when you do bring people in, make sure you celebrate their achievements, the team's achievements, and your own achievements, because it's important to have that role model being like, yeah, I did a really great thing. I can't wait to teach you how to do it as well. And then we can look forward and look back. So we can look forward to what we want to do next. That could be planning your next adventure, or seeing like what we could do in the future that like might, double the impact or make us able to reach more people in need, whatever you're trying to do, as well as looking back once again to see where we've come from. Too often it is easy to forget how far we've come, because it's easy to remember the hard parts. We're like, oh, I didn't do that perfectly, or that was really bad. But if I reflect back on where I was 10 years ago, I didn't have the same skills for communication. I didn't have the same team around me. I hadn't developed this pedagogy for teaching people things. There's so many things I've got to do, and there's just 365 days in each year, asterisk, that we are getting to do cool stuff on, and it's hard to remember all the things that we have built on from then. So looking back at what you've done, learning some things from like how you did it and how you want to do it better next time, and then planning that trip forward is a really exciting part of leadership. And finally, my brand new slide on being a modern leader. When we're thinking about AI or technology in general, I think we need to remember the difference between doing and impacting. So you might have a long to-do list. It has a bunch of things that you want to tick off. But the important thing is not about ticking the thing. It's about doing the thing such that it has impact. So making sure that when you're not, if you're potentially, I'm going to give you an example that I think comes up a lot in when we're thinking about AI. It's like, okay, what if we had education had AI, and you might have been using AI to do your assignments and things like that. And if a teacher in a school gives a kid a worksheet and then they go to ChatGPT and fill in all the solutions from ChatGPT, I'm like, is that the point of filling in that worksheet? Well, the point of the worksheet is not that it gets filled out, because it turns out the teacher actually already knows the answer. They didn't need you to get them the answer. What they needed from you is to learn how to do the things, because that's the opportunity they're offering you. So we could tick off the item, and that is fill out the worksheet, or we could tick off impact of learning what the worksheet offers us an opportunity to do. Potentially, if we consider this from the opposite side with teachers and marking, like we need to consider like, what is the impact of marking? And like, okay, part of it is to give feedback to the students on like how they can improve. But the other aspect of it, which teachers might want to not have, might want to skip over, because I am going to say like, maybe don't use AI to do all of your marking, is looking at how your students are doing and where they're struggling and how they might not be succeeding. And you maybe might not get that level of depth if you had AI mark all of their assignments. So actually doing the work is sometimes the most important part of it, rather than having the work ticked off at the end of the day. So that's one thing that like when you're considering like how to use AI, how can we use it as a tool to speed up the hard parts, but let us do the most important parts. Next up, be where the responsibility buck stops. That's what it is to be a leader. You get the final say on everything, which is sometimes, but also you get the final blame at the end of the day, especially if you make a decision or someone comes to you and is like, hey, can we do this? And you're like, go for it. And then you did not fully understand how that solution worked. That will come back to you. If you're like, yeah, nah, I just heard a cool buzzword and they said it was going to be great, so I just believed them. That does come back to you at the end of the day. So when we're thinking about AI solutions, like AI can do a lot of cool things, but making sure that we use AI responsibly. And at Microsoft, we are big proponents of responsible AI. Thinking about how data is used, what data is made available to the AI, and how that is then circulated out to other people. How are we protecting people who might be vulnerable from AI, and making sure we have the right, like roadblocks in place to make sure the language used with these people is correct. And yeah, making sure that we understand what the technology is actually capable of, and rather than just necessarily buying all of the hype around AI and what it can do, really understanding, like at the end of the day, it is generative AI. It's not all of AI, and it is a language generation tool at the end of the day. So making sure we know what that is before we say, yes, give me that solution, and seeing, what we can do to best utilize it as part of our broader offerings. Finally, it always comes back to people. People only solve problems people care about, whether that's making, business and economic decisions, or it's changing the environment or education. We do these things because like people care about money, or we do things like let's save the Barrier Reef because people care about the Great Barrier Reef. Whatever it is, it always comes back to that people care about something. So when we're thinking about how we can leverage AI tools, once again, it's not about ticking the box of like, we did the thing. It's like, how did we involve people in this decision and solution, because they are the ones who care about this happening. The AI doesn't care that the things get done. The AI doesn't care, full stop. So how can we involve people and utilize AI as a tool in making a solution that really serves the purpose of like what people care about, coming back to that point about impact rather than ticking the box. So yeah, that's my thoughts on being a moderator, as per the last 3 years of change. Yeah, that is my general spiel on leadership. Once again, there's that link if you want to have a look at that, and there are all my details. If you hit me up on Twitter, I'm probably not going to see it. I'm not going to lie, because that's not really a thing anymore. Yeah, but there are other places I will be there, and I will get back to you within some period of time. I will hand back over to my excellent presenter people who have hosting me to do the rest. I will stop sharing my screen and I'll drop this link in the chat.
Thanks, Renee. I think we're just going to do some questions now. We've got some questions from our group and the chat. So we'll just start off with the first question, which was, how have you managed any disappointing or negative outcomes throughout your career? And what do you think is the best way to bounce back and sort of build resilience and move on to the next opportunity?
That is a really good question. And it has been, yeah, it is difficult at times, especially like as a young woman, trying to like, especially doing GPN stuff, trying to get people on board with what I'm trying to do and get them to do it my way. It has been difficult and like really frustrating at times. And I think a lot of it was around building my own communication skills, in terms of like communicating my ideology or why I actually knew what I was doing. So that's been something to like help me change the situation. Now I've been presented. You can't always change every situation, which is frustrating. To someone who likes to make change. But I think just taking each opportunity you're presented with for what it is and being like, okay, what can I do with this space? Like when I've been like, I got reorged at Microsoft 4 times in 12 months. And that was really hard. Being like, oh, because I'm trying to like build up to get a promotion basically. It's like it's really hard to demonstrate your impact when you change teams every like the shortest time I was in one team was 3 weeks. So yeah, it's quite hard to be able to be like, here's what I'm doing, you should promote me. And it just takes persistence and like taking a step back and like, you know what, 6 months of my life is not a huge chunk of my life. Like you have a lot more chunks and you have a lot of stuff outside of your career as well. And you're always learning something you can take into the next step. So I think that's kind of one aspect of it. Also, go to therapy. It's really good. Every time I do a talk like this, I'm like, also therapy helps you realize what you as a person want rather than like you as a human. Like you can be a human being or you can be a human doing. For a long time, I was a human doing, and whenever something didn't go to plan, it was like, I'm a failure because I only have the things that I do that stand for what I am. But when I'm like, no, I'm a human being now and I have the rest of my and like my values and stuff, is like that all stands despite what happens in your career.
Thanks, Renee. Yeah, I definitely agree with all of that advice. And then another question we had this time from the chat was, how did you manage your time by joining activities to practice leadership qualities while keeping your grades up? And just generally how to manage your time when you have extracurricular activities you're pursuing and then also your academic focus.
Yeah, I think, look, while I was at uni, it was before I went too hard later. I went too hard. I'm going to say you can do too many things, and you will burn yourself out, and burnout sucks. So I don't recommend that. But I think I had a lot of like my extracurriculars I did with friends, and I think that meant that I could be realizing whilst also learning those leadership skills, and that just was really helpful in terms of like you have a lot of things in your life that you do want to balance, and you can't put any more hours in the day, and you should sleep. I do condone sleeping as an activity. So being able to double up on some of these things, I think, is one way to go about it, and it's a really nice way to form bonds with people. If you're like, I want to make more friends, because uni is a harder time now because you're not necessarily on campus as much. Like being able to make friends by doing activities together is actually really, by like how you're solving this problem, relying on each other. That's like a really impactful thing. And I still have a lot of those friends that I have from 14 years ago and things like that.
Yep, thank you, Renee. And then the next question we had was, what do you think is the biggest factor that hold women and girls back from pursuing a career in science and technology? And then do you have, I guess, like any advice for anyone who is maybe facing these issues?
Yeah, look, I think the biggest factor is society, which is hard to change, because like as early as like grade 3 or whatnot, girls are deciding that like girls are less good at STEM, so they probably shouldn't do it, which sucks. But a lot of you are here and hopefully already in degrees, so I'm not as worried about you, but I am worried that you might get to your career and there might be someone who is not very nice there, because I have experienced people in my career who were not the best people, and then you might feel like, oh, this space isn't for me because they made me feel bad about my skills. So I think if you are a woman in STEM and you have any vague interest in programming, you should come and volunteer for Girls Programming Network, and we will be a nice supportive place for you to have friendship and people who back you up, and you can be like, this person said this to me, and they'll be like, that's not all right, they're wrong. And just having another voice in your ear being like, no, that's not okay. And what if you came and worked somewhere else? So what if like you were able to stand up for yourself, or you could go to this academic and they might be able to support you in this situation. Like having people around you with the experience of like how to do life is hard. And just being able to have other people around you, like you can go to for support, I think is really valuable. So whether you come and volunteer for Girls Programming Network, sorry if you are not a woman or a non-binary or transgender person, you cannot come. But you can find another group who can support you in those ways. If you want to learn about Python programming, you can come to my other do, which is Sydney Python, which is a community organization where you also have opportunities to be a speaker or just talk to other people in the industry. So like there's lots of meetups and groups out there where you can make friends and ask for advice. But I think ones where you can volunteer often offer the best opportunity to become like meshed into a community and they're invested in you.
Okay, the next one was more sort of specifically related to your work, but how do you deal with any students who are uninterested or maybe as you spoke about the faces they change, challenges they face in society with feeling undervalued? How do you specifically help to motivate these students?
Yes, as part of Girls Programming Network. I'm just going to say GPN. It's a really long name. As part of GPN, we have opportunities for people to get mentoring from a diverse range of people. And like one of our values at GPN is aspirational and relevant, because people are always saying like, do what you dream of, you can do anything. And it's like, that's great thoughts, but that's not really advice. What you want is like, hey, I have a kind of idea of what I might want to do, but I need a little bit of help on like what that actually be shaped like. And we have volunteers who are at all different stages of their career. So they might be in first year uni, they might be 10 years working at Google or something. And we have everyone in between, and everyone in that pipeline can look above them and below them in that and be like, hey, I can mentor that person who is like in year 11 at school and they just need a little advice on like how to apply to uni or like what degrees are like and how they could get a scholarship or things like that, and giving that real lived experience at each step of the way. So I can, you can look ahead and be like, oh, I'm in year 11. I can see Sally, she's in first year uni. She's doing this cool degree. Tina, she's doing her honors thesis. Jessica, she's at this internship, and somebody else is working in a really cool startup. And you have all of these different things around you. So being able to see that pipeline is really important for everybody in every career. So surrounding yourself with people at the different stages, I think, is really valuable. So having friends who are not your age, who are older than you, is really helpful. Also having friends who are younger than you, and you can reflect back, as I was saying, looking back as part of the leadership aspect and be like, I was there, remembering, hey, I've come a long way, and this is how I got from there. And like consolidating that understanding of your own journey is really helpful to like take you to the next step. I'm like, oh, that is how I did it. Oh, it was a lot of work and I can do it again. That's kind of really helpful. Yeah, I hope that answered the question. I kind of went off on a tangent possibly.
Okay, thank you. And next question is, do you have any recommendations about where to start a coding journey for someone who has no background in coding at all?
Yes. On the link that I gave you, you can start by watching my series in the Code Garden. It's just on my website, where it just has a bunch of different videos where you can start learning to code. That's pretty helpful. I used to work at Grok Learning. It has some good courses on how to learn to code as well. And Microsoft Learn has a bunch of different resources. So that will also have stuff about like AI, hosting things in the cloud, building a website. So I would say those are all really good places to start learning. And if you are an eligible person to volunteer for GPN, it's also really great to come along and boost your own confidence in your coding skills and solidify those things if you want to do that. Because like GPN secretly is not about teaching girls to code. It's actually about boosting women and gender diverse people's confidence and skills in coding through teaching. That's a secret.
Thanks, Renee. And then another question was, someone said that they sort of have a lot of different ambitions in life, but they're not sure where to start and also don't want to overwhelm themselves with every goal they have. So what like recommendations do you have on how to approach this situation?
Yeah, cool. I love that, because I also have a lot of different things I'm interested in, and I think picking two and combining them is great. Because I think that the most interesting jobs live in the intersection of two different things. Because it's like education, I think that's cool. Technology, that's also really important. What if I did both at the same time? Then that's a place that not as many people have trekked, and like you have more of an ability to make new impact. I would say, like you can make impact in both these fields, but like, what can we do at the intersection of those? But at the same time, you can't do everything at the same time. You can do anything, but just not everything at the same time. So you can always be like, have this interlocking career of tech and education, but you know, maybe I'm going to have a hobby of painting, and like maybe I'm not going to be a professional painter, but I can always have hobbies around what I do, because yeah, you can live a rich, full life of having lots of other cool things, and they don't have to be what you do in your 9 to 5 or whatever hours that you choose to work.
Yeah, definitely. And then the other question was just about communication. So, what does communication look like to you? And also, more specifically, how do you communicate your needs if you maybe feel that as a woman you're being undervalued in maybe like a STEM industry? And how could you communicate like this conflict or these desires without, you know, having a big sort of conflict? Just like general communication tips.
That is a good question. I think being open and honest about what you want and need, I think, is always valuable. Not trying to play too many mind games and just coming out there and like, okay, cool. I am interested in understanding more about like how I can progress my career. And like sometimes it means asking for things that you don't necessarily want to hear. Being like, hey, manager, I'm interested in being able to progress my career in the future. Is there anything that I'm doing now that like I should be working on? Do I need to improve any skills? Is there anything like holding me back at the moment? How can you see me changing that? Because I think people like, you know, your manager, especially in your career, is supposed to be on your team. And like not everyone will have a great manager all of the time, which sucks. And hopefully you can find places to work out where you have good managers, because they are supposed to be there to unblock you and to lift you up, to make you a better fit to that company. And that is by being a good person to you and understanding you as an individual person and not just, you know, another line on a spreadsheet. So yeah, they've got that aspect of like just being honest about like, okay, this is how I'm feeling, and then just using language around like, okay, this is my goal, and like not making it as personal necessarily, but okay, I'm hoping to progress this, you know, agenda. I see you have a different opinion on this. Like, where can we work that out? Because yeah, at the end of the day, it's all about people. People are hard. As I said, everything comes back to people. We work on things that people care about, and people therefore care about the things that we're working on, and then people have different perspectives. So I think finding common ground is really important. And then also, yeah, being able to say, okay, I really care about this aspect, but I don't care that much about this other piece over here. So you can say something like, okay, how much do you care about like what we have for dinner? And so it's like, oh, I'm like, oh, I really like Thai food. So like that's like my preference. But like finding someone else and like, oh, okay, like how much? But like, oh, I hate Thai food. I'm like, okay, how much do you hate Thai food? And it's like, oh, like just kind of like a little bit. Like I'm just like a 5 out of 10 on it. It's like, okay, cool. So just saying like, or maybe there's an issue at work. It's like, okay, like I think we should do this way. Like this site should be purple. It's like, okay, like how much do you care about them? Like, oh, like a 1 out of 10. Like I really think like purple's the best color for it, but like if we just make it green, then like that's okay. Like I'm not gonna like, this is not the hill I'm willing to die on. So work out what you're willing to die on, which hills you're willing to die on. And it's like, no, purple, I mean 10 out of 10, it needs to be purple. I will discuss this at length, but if you're like, no, we can move on because we can only discuss so many things in any given day. Then it's like, no, this is a 1 out of 10. This is a 3 out of 10 for me. I don't need to think about it. If you're a 10 out of 10 on that being yellow, then go for it. Go for it.
Thank you so much, Renee. I definitely found all your advice really useful and very inspiring. I think that's all the questions we have time for, so I might pass over to other Renee, or if you have anything else to say. But yeah, that's all from us, the hosting group. But yeah, we just want to thank you for your time, and we really appreciate everything you had to say.
Thank you, hosting team. You've been amazing.
Thanks, hosting team, and thanks so much, Renee. We really appreciate it. Such great advice, really important. Really appreciate your time. Thanks very much.
Absolute pleasure to be here.